early. Thank you for joining. Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us today. We will begin momentarily. Thank you for joining. Hello, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon, good evening. As people are joining, we invite you to, in the chat box, to go ahead and introduce yourself. If you can include your name, your organization or community that you're part of, the work or ministry that you do, and also the country that you're from, that would be great. And muy buenos días a todos. Si puede seleccionar la opción de interpretación abajo en la pantalla. Y si puede seleccionar inglés o español. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. If you please can select your language that you would like to listen to our presentation in today. We will have both English and in Spanish. So if you go to the bottom and select the globe icon and select the language that you would like to hear, that would be great. And again, for people that are just joining now, please introduce yourself in the chat. And if you can include your name and the organization or the community that you're from, as well as the work that you do, the ministry you do, and the country, your country, that would be great. Hello, everyone. We're going to get started in just a moment. I know we're getting lots of people on our call today, our webinar. Thank you so much for joining. This is really exciting. Please take a moment, if you have not already, to introduce yourself in the chat and also to select the interpretation option of either English or Spanish at the bottom of your screen using the directions here on the screen that are in Spanish. But if in English, you just go to the globe and you click on it, and then there should be English and Spanish options. Thank you. All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. I think we have a great group of participants today. Again, welcome. I'd really like to take this opportunity to welcome each and every one of you to from around the world that are either joining us live today or viewing this recording at a later time. What an opportunity that we have to share, to learn, and to work together to really create life-changing positive outcomes for children so that they are able not only to survive, but to thrive and to achieve their God-given potential. I'd also like to thank the Transforming Children's Care Global Collaborative Platform. For those of you who are new and are just learning about this platform and the webinars that we're hosting, the overall vision of this platform is to establish more strategic sector-wide collaboration, spanning from the global levels down to the very micro local levels in order to strengthen care for children. And our aim is to enable organizations and communities such as yours, including communities of faith, to engage in child protection and child care reform. Also to agree on common principles and to build on each other's work so that we can achieve a greater and more sustainable impact and contribute to shared learning, as well as undertaken in joint advocacy for children. This active collaboration is already ongoing among a diverse group of stakeholders that are involved in children's care, including through a number of working groups. We invite you to sign up at the link in the chat box and to join this Transforming Children's Care Global Collaborative Platform and receive updates about future webinars, and perhaps even consider joining a working group on a particular aspect that is important to you and to the care for children. If you haven't done so already, please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat box, with your name, your organization or community, the work or ministry that you're doing, and your country. Be sure to select, when you're doing so, panelists and attendees when sending a message in the chat so everyone can see it. And so speaking of introductions, I have not put my information in the chat, but I will introduce myself verbally. I am Mary Beth Iduh, and I am the Senior Program Manager for Faith Engagement for Changing the Way We Care. And I've had the opportunity to work at Catholic Relief Services for the past 14 years in Latin America and Africa, and most recently and currently in the United States. And I'm very excited to be representing Changing the Way We Care today. It's a global family care initiative that is co-led by Catholic Relief Services and Maestro International, along with many partners and collaborators all around the world, including the Better Care Network, who is taking the lead in coordinating this platform. We recognize that we have a broad group of participants today that are gathered. Some of you have worked in this child protection space, child protection and care space, while some of you may have had your interest piqued by the Catholic aspect of this webinar, and they may be relatively new to this issue of children's care. And others may be somewhere in between. So in addition, some of you also are native Spanish speakers who are joining from Latin America and participating today through the simultaneous interpretation. So please know that you are all very welcome, and I am quite excited for us to all be in this virtual room together, learning from one another and asking the sometimes difficult questions to one another. So next slide, please. So moving on to today, today's webinar on Catholics advancing family care around the world is the 10th in our series on transforming children's care, and it's being recorded. The recording will be made available to you all in Spanish and in English following the webinar. Today is an opportunity for us to lift up how the Catholic Church around the world is advancing safe and nurturing family care for children. Our agenda for today is as follows. First, I'll just offer a brief overview of the Church's commitment to vulnerable children over the years, as well as highlight recent efforts by global Catholic leadership, including the Vatican. And then this will be followed by a panel of speakers who will share inspiring examples of Catholic-led transitioning from residential care to other forms of family or community-based care. These examples will highlight the impactful and committed work of Catholic women religious, clergy, and laity in 5 countries: Zambia, India, Haiti, Mexico, and Sri Lanka. And you may notice throughout this webinar today that there are a few references to Catholic relief services in several of the presentations. Except where noted explicitly, this is primarily due to the support that my Catholic Relief Services colleagues have offered to our Catholic partners and affiliates in preparation for today in order to lift up their inspirational stories, their work, their testimonies, rather than featuring the work of Catholic Relief Services. And then finally, we will take, following the country panel presentations, we will open it up for a brief question and answer period, taking several minutes to dialogue and respond to what we have heard, and to give an opportunity for participants to ask questions of the speakers. As such, please use the Q&A function throughout the webinar to ask questions and comment on the questions of other attendees. And also, if you could please vote for other participants' questions so that we can make sure that the areas that people are most interested in are discussed, that would be great. So without further ado, let's get started. Thank you, Margot. So just to offer a brief overview of the global commitment that the church has, the Catholic Church has towards vulnerable children. Next slide, please. There has been, through pretty much all since the church was founded over 2,000 years ago, a Catholic commitment to the vulnerable, to the poor and vulnerable, especially the widow and orphan. We have in the Catholic Church, I'm speaking as a Catholic myself, we have a preferential option for the poor, the marginalized, the oppressed, and people who are living in poverty, including especially for widows and children who are without parents. This is based on scripture, Old Testament and New Testament, our teachings, our traditions as Catholics, and our values. And this has led throughout the years to countless missions and ministries that are based on serving women and children. And as you see on the slide here, there's the word charism, which is for men and women religious, is kind of the way that they do their work, the way that they go about their ministries, their values, and what really motivates them to come together as a community and serve others. And finally, this commitment to especially to children and to children who are vulnerable has led to amazing generosity and dedication of donors and missionaries and volunteers to help support children around the world. Next slide, please. But unfortunately, a lot of the way that we as Catholics have invested over the years has not necessarily been what we're learning now, maybe in the best interest of children. And so we're learning now that there has been increasing residential care or orphanages throughout the world, and that we've seen that the long-term outcomes for children who've grown up in residential care often is not the best and is actually detrimental to their overall well-being. And you can see here on the chart that since, I think this is, it's not very clear, I apologize, but since 1980, there's actually been an increasing number of Catholic orphanages that have been formed and opened up around the world. I think it goes from about 6,000, so it's probably hard to see, up to over 10,000, and this goes, I think, through 2016. And so we have seen that why in the United States and much of Europe, there has been a reduction in the last 100 years of residential care, of orphanages, but that we've seen in other parts of the world, especially lately in the global South, that that has been the way that we have been addressing vulnerable children as a Catholic Church. And lately, with the different natural disasters, emergencies, and often a response is to open up an orphanage, including after as a response to the HIV and AIDS epidemic that resulted in many children losing caregivers and orphans, or excuse me, caregivers and parents as a result to HIV and AIDS. Next slide, please. So but this seems to, as we're learning, that also the Catholic value of family is imperative to who we are as people of faith and as children of God. And Pope Francis reminded of this to us in 2019 in this encyclical on human fraternity for world peace and living together. And he says here that it's fundamental that children have a fundamental right to grow up in a family environment. And that this is the responsibility of the family and the society to make sure that children are able to exercise that right to grow up in a family environment. And that we must make sure that what we are providing for our children around the world really allows them to live out their dignity fully. Next slide, please. And so similarly to what we saw with the HIV and AIDS epidemic several years ago, we've seen that the pandemic has really sadly, tragically left many children without parents and without caregivers, that there's been such loss of life due to COVID-19. But one thing that I think is different is that we have begun as a church to learn from what happened with the HIV and AIDS epidemic, that we are looking at a different way of moving forward. And this is coming directly from the Vatican, the Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development and their COVID-19 task force. They issued a document that you can see a couple of quotes here that are really exciting in December that really say that ensuring safe and nurturing family-based care should be a church priority, that we should find a way to make sure that children are living in a family, even if it is through foster care or adoption rather than through their biological extended family. And also you can see here one point that I'm going to let my colleague in one moment expand on, but you can see here reference to the International Union of Superiors General, their Catholic Care for Children International, which is a global opportunity or global initiative to really have especially women religious that to be able to really support family care around the world. So this is a quite exciting effort. And I will now, at this point, if we can advance to the next slide, I'm very excited for my esteemed colleague, Barbara Aber, for her to share more from her amazing vantage point and her experience about this regional and global work for Catholic Care for Children International, and also a recent event that happened in May of this year in Kenya for really child protection throughout all of Africa during the times of the pandemic. So I'm very excited to introduce you to Barbara Aber, who is our Regional Family Care Advisor for Catholic Relief Services. Thank you, Barbara.
So much, Mary Beth. I'll jump right in. I mean, you know, like Mary Beth said, Catholic Care, the Catholic Care for Children initiative is led by Catholic sisters with a vision to see children growing up in safer neighborhoods. It began in 2016 in Uganda after a renewed call by government to deinstitutionalize children and prioritize family-based care within the country. With support from GHR Foundation, the Association of Religious in Uganda launched a program that they called Catholic Care for Children Uganda, with the intention of really spearheading the transition of children from Catholic-run institutions in the country into family-based care, you know, where the country CCCI registered almost. They saw Catholic sisters in a video Africa, Kenya, Sri Lanka countries. This was to move these initiatives beyond just Uganda into other countries within the region. CCC is now under the auspice of Catholic Care for Children International, like Mary Beth mentioned, and the International Union of Superiors General. CCC is very much now a catalytic project for the Catholic Church. In May, like Mary Beth mentioned, the African Task Force of the Vatican COVID-19 Commission and Ecological Network Africa held a roundtable dialogue that they termed the Ndaba. And the purpose was really to reflect on the theology of child protection in the context of COVID-19 times. And whereas these conversations were really on a wide range of child protection issues, a key topic of interest was the church and residential care for children. Over 100 religious men and women, including 3 bishops and some lay participants like myself, attended this Ndaba, where there was real interest to move forward concrete actions to benefit children and families. In fact, one of the bishops shared a very personal story about living in an orphanage where, he shared that he felt like the sisters gave him very good care, provided for all his needs. But, as he became an adult, as he made all these achievements, he felt the need to go back to his community. And he did that. But, on reaching there, he felt some level of disconnect. He felt that he did not fully belong in that community and was really interested in trying to see if he could have gone to that community much earlier. So, there was this acceptance that as the Catholic Church, we are providing very good care for children in these institutions, but perhaps it is the time to reflect deeply about how we can then make more connections with these communities and work with these communities and caregivers and families to better care for their children. So, just to further articulate this example and this experience, I would like to now hand over to Mary Beth to share with us a case study from Zambia that really focuses on the work of Catholic care for children within this particular context. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. We'll go ahead and show a video now that Catholic Care for Children Zambia has shared with us.
So government has stated very clearly that family-based care is the preferred care option for all children in Zambia, including children living with disabilities. Care reform has taken on a transitional process. Through the years, we've noticed a breakdown in a traditional extended family system that typically took in children who are vulnerable due to poverty, due to death of their parents. So that was like a safety net where these children could be cared for within a family setting and within their communities. But unfortunately, with HIV/AIDS, as the nation was grappling with HIV and socioeconomic meltdown, poverty, we saw an increase in vulnerability at family level, which led to the need to establish childcare facilities in Zambia at that time. And there was a drive or a push towards children being admitted into these childcare facilities. The good part is that our government has shown strong political will in promoting family-based care for all children here in the country, and they have established a very strong regulatory framework that is reflected in our laws and policies that promotes reintegration of children from childcare facilities back to their families, and also looks at other alternative care options such as foster care and adoption. And over the years, we've seen an increase of families taking back children from facilities back into their families, and also an interest around foster care and adoption from various families within various communities.
The Zambia Association of Sisterhoods, commonly known as ZAS, is an umbrella body for all the women religious here in Zambia. And it was founded in 1958. It consists of 46 congregations with a membership of over 1,500 sisters, both indigenous and missionary sisters. So the association runs a number of programs and projects. And the CCCI, which is Catholic Care for Children in Zambia, is one of the projects that is running under us. So through the Catholic Care for Children in Zambia, the association takes a proactive role in promoting the well-being of children in Zambia, particularly looking at issues of child safeguarding and protection. But again, the project promotes the family-based care as the best environment for nurturing the growth of a child.
Issues of changing the community attitude and mindset borders on sensitization activities that we have been undertaking through radio and also face-to-face interaction with the community. And I think under the Catholic Care for Children project, where we are working with the collaborating partners and also Children and Families platform, we have been able to air some sensitization activities on radio. And what we are getting now as a feedback is that the community perception is slowly changing. They are now receptive to getting their children back into their families. And I think we are seeing more so positive response in terms of really promoting family-based care and life-based children into institutional care. So it's a gradual process, but I think we are getting there because we can now say that the community is really supportive of our initiative of placing the children back into the families. Internally, actually, we can say the challenge has been really to make our religious and the clergy to buy into what we are promoting. But of late, I think we are seeing really concerted effort also by our regional bodies and ASEA, and also the national conferences that are also engaging our bishops and the clergy so that they can be able to buy in. At community level, I think the challenges were around really issues of poverty that are really like the driving factors for placing children in institutional care. So we are doing some economic strengthening in order for us to make sure that families have the ability to care and also to provide. So I think these are the main two challenges of late. Otherwise, the project is flowing, and we hope that as we continue with our interventions, then we can see much more areas of impact and positive growth of children in family environment. Yeah, mindset change is a long journey and it's a process, so we still feel that we need to still continue sitting around the table, dialoguing around the best way of living, like transitioning, so that most of the childcare facilities can be providing support at family level, at household level, and we hope that also the partners that are really helping us in terms of material and financial resources can continue supporting this cause and the interventions that we are making, so that at the end of the day we can all see that we really move a number of children from institutional care to family-based care. So we still need to continue really engaging one another and all the different stakeholders, including government, so that we speak to the care reforms.
Wonderful. Well, hopefully that video that the Zambia team, the Catholic Care for Children Zambia team prepared was interesting and enlightening for all of us. Unfortunately, they were not able to be able to present live today, so I was very excited that they prepared a video. But we now will move to India, where we will have a chance, we've just heard about the work of religious sisters. Now we'll have a chance to hear from Father Albert Tambidurai, who is the director of the Tamil Nadu Social Service Society, or TASOSS, in India. And he's sharing this from a diocesan social service perspective. So I'll turn it over to Father Albert to share with us what they are doing in India.
Thank you. Can you put on my slides? Family and faith, changing the way we care, an initiative by Tamil Nadu Social Service Society, supported by Catholic Relief Services. Let me start with a quote from Pope Francis. Wherever children are accepted, loved, cared for, and protected, the family is healthy, society is healthier, and the world is more human. Next slide. Tamil Nadu Social Service Society is the social wing of Tamil Nadu Catholic Bishops' Conference for Justice, Peace, and Development. It coordinates with 27 diocesan social service societies in 21 dioceses and in 39 revenue districts. Our vision is working with the underprivileged people, building an equitable society wherein people live with human values like peace, human rights, dignity, and equality. Our commitment: Indian Church is pioneer in most of the social changes brought to the community through its innovative interventions. The Church, in its innovative approach, opened up educational institutions and children's homes in rural areas, wherein there were no transport facilities, mainly to bring equality among all the people. Presently, the situation has improved in terms of access to education. Therefore, the focus now should be on providing healthy environment for the children to grow in the families. Hence, Tamil Nadu Social Service Society, along with changing the way we care team, are committed to strengthen church commitment and action to strengthen families. Next slide, please. Context. According to Jena Committee report 2018, we have 9,589 homes functioning in India, and the total number of children occupying these homes across the country is 377,649. But in Tamil Nadu alone, we have 20% of total children and 17% of total homes, which is the highest number across the country. In all good intention, Church constituted many children's homes to provide good education and safety. This has led to significant proportion of homes being managed by church institutions. In recent rapid assessment, we realized in Kanyakumari alone, where the project is operational, 74% of homes are run by Christian organizations. During the pandemic, more than 200,000 children in India had lost a primary or secondary caregiver. This is intensified by increased poverty, anxiety, isolation, violence, and social stigma. In this context of the first wave, directives were issued by authorities to send children from home back to families without any proper preparation. Our team gathered a few important stakeholders from the church and organized a series of reflection on family as a natural unit that needs to be strengthened instead of artificial institutions, and decided to explore how the existing system and structures of the church can support in strengthening families. Next slide, please. In this context of COVID, our team with commitment to focus on family-based care support for children decided to support 800 children who are at risk of separation institutionalization, and other protection risks. Besides food and cash support, it was decided to monitor their protection, health, mental health, food security, and education status, and link them with adequate services of the government with the help of an ICT-based case management tool through virtual monitoring. The team was able to share the success with the key stakeholders in the church and action taken to support children to live with the families. Next slide, please. Deep-rooted belief of the church is that the institution is the best place for children to grow, and also it attracts resources. Parish priests or leaders of the church refer children to homes as it is an easy solution to the problem. In real situation, the safety and protection aspect are not ensured fully at homes, and children who come out from children's homes are finding it difficult to cope up in the society. At this point, it is important to help the stakeholders within the church to build the knowledge in helping them understand the need for children to grow in families. Hence, we engage the church by providing concept clarity to key stakeholders such as bishops, parish priests, commission heads, parish leaders, village level child protection committee, etc. Church has different structures like parish council, cooperatives, self-help groups, children parliament, youth clubs, etc. They play an important role in the church activities. We strongly believe by engaging these structures, we can bring behavioral changes in the community. Our team is currently engaged in campaign for family strengthening, which enables a larger scale reach in which a community or village are enriched with the importance of family and providing a safe and conducive environment for children. The campaign also helps in gaining knowledge and attitude about family-based care and brings ownership among various stakeholders. Next slide, please. Collaborative approach. Our key success is in collaborative approach. Our campaign led the church to change from isolation approach to collaborative approach. The support system. By linking the services to the parent in need of economic assistance, health services, housing development, education, and children after school care. Allocation of resources. Church started to provide support to children in families instead of providing to the homes, and initiating and maintaining the momentum would be the key for this initiative. Inclusive approach. The push factor towards home reduced by engaging all children in the family. Thus, let the peers to engage with each other and discussion on experience of children and how they can have a healthy environment in village, reduce the push factor. Parents understand the importance of children being at home. A slow transformation that parents are moving from denial to acceptance. Thus, they realize the family is the right place for the children to live. Next slide, please. We are making a continued effort to strengthen church commitment and action to strengthen the families. But we also face some challenges. Let me share some challenges that we face. Breaking the belief by parents that homes are the best place for children to grow. Second one is caste, religion, political affiliation, or hindering in executing our campaign activities. The deep-rooted thought of childcare institution that home is the best place for children and only home can attract resources. Church mostly works in isolation. These are our challenges. We make a lot of efforts to convert these challenges into action. Having these challenges, the team has taken continued efforts to strengthen church commitment an action to strengthen families to prevent separation of children from their families by capacitating the key influencers to enable them to bring about social and behavioral change, converge potential stakeholders to synergize their action to support families, promote community-based family support system and programs, promote champions. Champions here means who are committed to work for family strengthening, will become an influencers within the church to lead the advocacy efforts, and this becomes a success. Next slide, please. Thank you one and all for giving this opportunity. This is from India, South India in Tamil Nadu. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Father Albert. That was wonderful, and I learned a lot about the great work that you're doing in Tamil Nadu. So thank you very much for sharing with us. And your contact information is on the screen in case anybody would like to note that. It'll also be shared with us, all of our group after today. And in case you'd like to get in touch with him about anything you'd like to follow up with Father Albert on. Now we will move across the ocean, and we will now move to the country of Haiti. And I am pleased to introduce my colleague, Frederic Jean-Baptiste, who is the Program Manager for Child Protection for Catholic Relief Services, Haiti, based in Port-au-Prince. So Frederic, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm just gonna share with you briefly our work with Alta Visita in Haiti. In May 2017, Crs Haiti, in collaboration with the Changing the Way We Care initiative, launched a demonstration project to support and influence care reform. It was the Family Care for Haitian Children project. In partnership with IBERS, Institut du Bien-être Social et de Recherche, which is the national government's lead agency for social protection, including child protection, Crs Haiti set out to accompany a residential care facility, a children's residential care facility, another word for orphanages, to encourage deinstitutionalization, or DI, and the transformation of their services to remain a key resource in their communities. And in turn, children previously in orphanages would be reintegrated into safe and nurturing family care. In Haiti, just to give you a little context of residential care facilities, most of the impacted children are not without families. Rather, they are separated from their families because poverty leads to family breakdown, and the response is often residential care facilities. Even though residential care it can be harmful to children's developmental and well-being, and that most families can provide nurturing care if supported. It is well documented that children who grew up in safe and nurturing families experience better outcome overall. And most residential care centers in Haiti are privately run and financed. After the earthquake of 2010, Haiti saw an increase of 150% in the number of residential care centers, even though the number of children who lost both parents in the earthquake was minimal. Roughly 30,000 children live in over 750 residential care facilities throughout Haiti. And the government estimates that about at least 80% of these children have at least one living parent, and almost all have other family members who could care for them if they had the right support. Next slide, please. Through a long process of meeting several residential care facility directors to embark on this journey with us, a year went by without much success in securing this commitment to change from a director. Following the identification of the Alta Visita Center, a similar process of engagement meetings took place. Alta Visita is a residential care facility run by les Petites Sœurs de Sainte Thérèse de l'Enfant Jésus, or in English, Congregation of the Little Sisters of Saint Teresa of the Child Jesus. Next slide, please. Alta Visita is located in Rivière-Froide, a community in Carrefour, a largely residential commune in Port-au-Prince in the West Department of Haiti. The center was a Catholic orphanage that housed a total of 26 children and young adults, including 14 girls. Of this total, 12 children had a physical and or mental disability. And these children and youth were either orphaned or their parents and relatives were unable to take care of them because of the size of the family and or the disability of the child. And after several meetings with the family members of the children at Alta Visita, we noticed a common trait is that the parents mostly placed either their youngest child or the one with a mental or physical deficiency. The center offered the children with basic services such as housing, food, education, all that with very limited economic and financial means at their disposal. Next slide, please. A preliminary assessment of the center revealed that there was no specific budget for the care of the children, nor salary for the staff. Thus, problems of malnutrition, health, hygiene, and inappropriate care had been observed among children. After presenting the planned support to the congregation and accompaniment, they made the decision to transform their care strategy to support family reintegration and family-based care. This transformation was done on 4 levels: support to the children residing at the center, support to families reintegrated, reunified, and support to young adults, or another term for young adults or caregivers, through case management, support to Alta Visita and at the community level. Next slide, please. Support to the children residing at the center. On this level, we engage in case management, starting with evaluating and documenting each child, as well as conducting family tracing to evaluate the possibilities for family reintegration. Out of the 26 children and youth, 3 were referred to partner organizations to be welcomed in adopted foster care families, to mean that the other 23, they were successfully reintegrated into their families. Next slide. Support to families reintegrated and reunified, and the support to the caregivers. That was done through training to promote positive parenting, improve household income, savings, budgeting, including participating in subgroups or micro-lending communities, in which we saw much success in this support for and help increase the household income and savings. Third, next slide, was at the community level to strengthen and create a protective environment, encouraging family-based care. And communities need to feel empowered and included in this process. In Rivière-Froide, we identified neighborhood child protection committee, where in places where the committees were not in place, we support the creation of those groups, and community leaders participate in raising awareness on the effect of institutionalization and other child protection themes. Committee members were also encouraged to identify families at risk of separation and facilitate referrals to key resources. Additionally, project staff also worked to identify families at risk of separation in the community, and those families received support with school tuition, cash support, as well as participation in the micro-lending groups. Lastly, next slide, was our direct support to Alta Visita in their transformation. While working to reunify the children, youth with their families, project staff were also working with Alta Visita leadership in the congregation for their transition. How could our program support how could our program support the center to remain an important resource in Rivière-Froide, because they were already identified in the community as a resource, as an orphanage, and our work was to accompany them in their transformation so they can remain a resource, but there's a change in their care. Next slide. During family tracing, a common reason mentioned by parents as the root cause for placing their child at Alta Visita was due to the child or youth disability. The parents believed an institution would be better equipped than their homes, and they turned to Alta Visita for support. However, Alta Visita, as it existed, was not able to provide support tailored to each child's need. After discussion with Alta Visita leadership around the needs identified in the community, we set out to accompany the institution into transforming into a stimulation and nutritional center. Our team facilitated training on child protection for Alta Visita staff, training on how to elaborate the budget, on creating a business plan, because after our transformation, they would need to continue providing the support in the community, and they would need to identify key sources of funds. The center was also supported to sign an agreement with a university that specializes in rehabilitation. The university will continue to provide support and capacity transfer so that the newly transformed Alta Visita Center can be equipped to provide rehabilitation sessions. Overall, this is our work with Alta Visita, so that was done over a 2-year period. And in the chat, I will add that we have a little video that documents our work with Alta Visita in the congregation for additional information. Thank you, everyone. Over.
Thank you so very much, Frederique, for that great presentation and lifting up the work of the sisters and the work of the great team in Haiti related to family care, especially lifting up the work of serving children with disabilities through the transformation of Alta Visita. So that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. We now will be hearing our next presentation. We're going to be moving from Haiti just nearby to Mexico and to the Latin American region. Our next presentation will be in Spanish. So if you have not yet selected an interpretation language, I invite you to do so now if you would like to hear this in English. And the slides also will be in Spanish, so that they'll be translated in the chat box. So you can look for the chat box for the translation. So now, without further ado, I will introduce 2 wonderful women from Latin America. First, I'll introduce Sister Veronica. Sister Veronica Esquivel Rivera, who is a sister of the Congregation of Our Lady of Charity of the Good Shepherd, and she's based in Mexico, as well as Haiti Hostetter, who is the regional manager for Latin America for the Good Shepherd International Foundation. So we'll first hear from Haiti a little bit about the Latin American work in family strengthening and family care, and then she'll go right in. Sister Veronica will go ahead and take the presentation from there. So I'll turn it over to Haiti.
Muchas gracias, Mary Beth, por esta oportunidad y la participación. Lo que vamos a presentar ahora es la experiencia de México, que es una experiencia que responde a toda una respuesta global que la congregación de Nuestra Señora de la Caridad del Buen Pastor ha impulsado, y como Fundación Internacional hemos venido acompañando. Es de qué manera podemos empezar a mirar, a dar nuevas respuestas desde los apostolados que tenemos y en la región de América Latina, tomando decisiones para movernos a este cambio. Esto ha implicado reconocer las capacidades con las que nosotros contamos y también cómo respondíamos a estas nuevas necesidades, especialmente basándonos en este enfoque de derechos que deben tener las niñas y cómo deben estar en espacios seguros. Es así que se ha impulsado todo este movimiento de organización a través de construcción de planes estratégicos. La experiencia de México ha sido todo un proceso de 3 años donde se han tomado las decisiones para movernos a este cambio. A través esto con la mirada de que nuestras respuestas siempre sean de mejor calidad, que respondan a esta necesidad y que las niñas gocen siempre de sus derechos y de conexión hacia programas mucho más comunitarios. Esto plasmado en los planes estratégicos que se han construido es una estrategia de acción para los próximos años que orientan la misión. Ha permitido también mirar las necesidades en el desarrollo de capacidades de quienes están a cargo de los programas de que están destinados a las niñas. Y también articularnos con socios estratégicos, como es en este caso con la iniciativa Cambiando la forma en la que cuidamos, lo cual ha permitido que este proceso que lo teníamos planificado y que tenemos planificado en muchos países de la región a través de nuestras estrategias, permitan apresurar estos cambios y estos modelos de intervención y nos permitan movernos de unas respuestas que íbamos dando a nuevas respuestas a las necesidades que han ido surgiendo, especialmente después del COVID y por las situaciones, por ejemplo, como por ejemplo la migración en América Latina. Es por eso que consideramos que este proceso es muy importante, ha sido muy bien acompañado y los resultados los estamos mirando ahora. Para presentar toda la experiencia, quiero pasarle la voz ahora a la hermana Verónica.
Gracias, Heidi. Buenos días y buenas tardes a cada uno de ustedes. Yo comparto esta experiencia en este cambio del cuidado de la niñez y de la adolescencia desde México. La siguiente. Somos una congregación, por favor, la siguiente. Somos una congregación internacional presente en 72 países. Y en México estamos presentes desde 1900. Es obvio que desde nuestra fundación, desde 1641, pues nuestro carisma, nuestros modos de atender también han ido adaptándose de acuerdo a las circunstancias que vamos viviendo en nuestra sociedad y en el lugar donde nosotras nos encontramos presentes. Y se va adaptando a cada época. Actualmente, hoy en México, contábamos con 5 casas hogares, con toda la atención interna, ¿verdad? Esto nos lleva a un desafío porque las decisiones que nosotras vamos adaptando o vamos aceptando son por las directrices de la congregación que nos va impulsando. Yo creo que esto es muy importante, sabernos respaldadas por la congregación para vivir este proceso global que va requiriendo de planeación y no previamente, sino una planeación por varios años que nos viene impulsando para cambiar. Y sobre todo creo que es un cambio que es más bien desde el discernimiento, porque vamos viendo las etapas, las épocas que nos van invitando a hacer este cambio. La siguiente, por favor. Podemos nosotras pensar, y también nosotras nos veíamos, ¿verdad?, involucradas en esto, en ese cambio y en esta palabra tan común que podemos escuchar, pero que nuestra congregación nos viene impulsando desde nuestras líneas congregacionales, la transformación. ¿Cómo crear esta transformación también dentro de nuestros apostolados que realizamos? Y este cambio que nos impulsa a la transformación no era de fuera hacia adentro, hacia nosotras, porque podíamos recibir la información, las directrices, pero el 80% de todo este cambio necesitaba ser de nosotras, de lo que nosotras sí deseábamos en ese momento y en este momento y actualmente, cambiar en esta manera de seguir atendiendo. Esto implicaba una transformación desde nuestros pensamientos, desde nuestros sentimientos, desde nuestra manera de ver el mundo, el apostolado, desde nuestra manera de vernos, que estábamos impactando en una sociedad específica. Esto nos llevó a abordar este cambio, pues queriendo fortalecer a la familia. Las cosas que veníamos haciendo no es que estuvieran mal, en realidad como provincia de México ya veníamos haciendo este discernimiento para el cambio de modelo de atención a estas casas hogares que ya se tenían y donde se nos pedía y se nos pide buscar nuevas formas de atender. Realmente este fue todo un proceso de dejar de hacer lo que por muchos años veníamos haciéndolo y lo sabíamos hacer. Y lo hacíamos también para nosotras, que creíamos que este era el modo, que era la atención a las niñas en casa hogar, niñas solamente. Y ahora verlos frente a una realidad que nos invitaba a ver hacia otros horizontes, pues nos desafiaba, a la vez nos creaba una cierta inseguridad a esto, a lo nuevo, a lo desconocido que estábamos viviendo. Como les menciono, para nosotras era claro entonces en ese momento de que las niñas y los niños y las adolescentes pues tienen entonces un derecho a crecer dentro de un ambiente familiar, ¿verdad? Protector, acogedor, evitando ser separados de manera innecesaria de su entorno familiar. La congregación nos impulsa a trabajar implementando estas mejores prácticas con un enfoque de derecho, implementando políticas de salvaguarda infantil. Creo que tener esto claro nos empezaba a dar un horizonte diferente en lo que queríamos y buscábamos. Hemos colaborado con cambiando la forma en que cuidamos desde junio del 2021. Empezamos a crear alianzas, a hacer estas búsquedas, a querer hacer este modelo de servicio diferente, pero no sabíamos cómo. Tal vez teníamos la idea, la búsqueda, el corazón que nos decía sí, es lo que queremos, es lo que buscamos, pero no sabíamos en su totalidad cómo era el rostro de lo que realmente estábamos buscando y esperando encontrar. La siguiente, por favor. Esta transición a este nuevo modelo, pues realmente nos va desafiando a hacer estas búsquedas. Antes de la pandemia, la provincia ya nos venía haciendo esta invitación en la congregación, en la misma provincia de México, pues de hacer esta búsqueda. Y antes de esta pandemia, las comunidades, cada una viene haciendo estas búsquedas a vivir un proceso de transición y de búsqueda del modelo de atención. Pero justo a partir de la pandemia que inicia en el 2019, empezamos a ver que como comunidades empezamos a hacer búsquedas más palpables. Actualmente 2 de estas comunidades, de estas 5 comunidades, 2 están en este proceso ya de abordar este nuevo cambio. Pero justo en estas comunidades el programa empieza a evolucionar a partir de la pandemia. Pero tuvieron que pasar meses para soltar, para hacer búsquedas y después para abrazar lo nuevo que estaba surgiendo. Se tuvieron tiempos de diálogo como comunidad, tuvimos tiempos de diálogo, de escucharnos, de discernir en comunidad junto con los partners, para dejarnos llevar donde realmente nuestro corazón estaba inquieto buscando una respuesta. Un día caminábamos, hablo de una experiencia de la comunidad de Tijuana, y un día caminábamos por las colonias cercanas a esta casa, a Casa Eudes, así se llama. Y nos animamos a entrar a la parte de un sector de La Esperanza, que es un asentamiento de migración interna. Y en comunidad decidimos seguir avanzando, adentrándonos en estos callejones sostenidos por llantas de carro. Subíamos y bajábamos para conocer a las personas. Eso nos interesaba, decíamos, este rostro es importante. Y nos encontramos con personas adultas, con mujeres, con niñas y con niños, solos en sus casas, que eran construidas y son construidas de desechos de madera, de plástico. Y esto nos impactó tanto que nuestro corazón empezaba a latir más y nuestra voz la empezábamos a escuchar más fuerte al dialogar en comunidad. Y decíamos que eso era lo que queríamos, un rostro encarnado visible y que estaba tan cerca de nosotras como para dejar de ver. Y es así como iniciamos nuestras búsquedas y nos animamos a caminar juntas en comunidad, esto nuevo que estaba emergiendo. Actualmente en estas comunidades se atienden hoy alrededor de 50 niños y niñas y adolescentes. Yo creo que la riqueza de esta experiencia, donde solamente atendíamos a las niñas en otro tiempo, hoy se abre a esta realidad de también atender a las niñas, pero también a los niños, a estos adolescentes que necesitan, enfocando nuestra atención también a toda la familia. Y hoy estamos ofreciendo estos servicios de prevención, teniendo en cuenta la crianza positiva. Tenemos en cuenta también el respaldo de su educación, dándoles un seguimiento escolar. También encontramos la necesidad de un apoyo psicológico para ellos. Programas artísticos que les puedan generar un impulso más creativo también para ellos y ellas. La alimentación por medio de un programa de cena segura nos fue dando la fuerza también para darnos cuenta que solamente estas niñas y niños que nosotros empezábamos a contactar, pues solamente a veces tenían una comida al día y que nosotros buscábamos respaldar con una cena segura. Yo creo que como hermana, ¿verdad? Siento que hoy compartimos y colaboramos juntas en esta misión. Nuestra vida de oración se sigue encarnando con rostros concretos de mujeres, de niñas y de niños, como es con toda la familia. Nuestra relación y misión hoy se expande a más allá, viendo en nuestras niñas y niños cómo van creciendo y desarrollándose desde un entorno familiar. Y es esta la realidad que nos hace ver que estas dos comunidades de la frontera de México cambian en su totalidad esta forma y esta manera de atender. Tijuana teniendo un oasis de crecimiento, que así lo nombra, de las niñas y niños, atendiendo esta parte más global. Pero también Ciudad Juárez, Chihuahua, cambiando de esta manera de casa-hogar, transitando a la atención a las mujeres migrantes, con niños y con sus hijos sobre todo, ¿verdad? Creo que dejarnos interpelar, dejarnos desafiar, dejarnos entrar en esta sintonía de Dios mismo, creo que nos va llevando a nuevos caminos y a nuevas maneras de atender. Para nosotras, seguir atendiendo de esta manera nos va llenando más el corazón. Estas comunidades, las que actualmente somos 5, donde estábamos con casas hogares, 3 de ellas, bueno, van haciendo estas búsquedas, una continúa obviamente atendiendo a estas niñas, es un tanto vivir un proceso, ¿no?, de cambio, no es de la noche a la mañana querer hacer este cambio, es un proceso transformativo de hacer estas búsquedas, de saber hacer otras cosas diferentes también y que nos pueden ayudar a seguir sirviendo. La siguiente, por favor. Pues juntas vamos caminando confiadas, desafiadas, pero sobre todo yo considero que sostenidas mutuamente y coaprendiendo unas de las otras. Hoy nos damos cuenta que no solamente es la encargada que anteriormente estaba en la casa hogar, sino ahora somos toda la comunidad que entra en esta sintonía para colaborar, para sentirnos parte de un proyecto. Y algo que pienso que Dios nos está también diciendo, y en su palabra nos los dice, es que algo nuevo está surgiendo. ¿No lo notas? Yo creo que esta pregunta hoy es visible, tal vez hasta para nosotras. Es visible saber que estamos notando algo nuevo que está surgiendo. Y considero también que nuestros fundadores fueron personas llenas de este espíritu, que hoy nos siguen también recordando y nos siguen poniendo en esta línea de no contentarnos solamente amar con este pequeño corazón tan humano que tenemos y tan frágil muchas veces, que podemos hacer creer que estamos haciendo bien estas cosas. Nos dice, esto es muy poco, ama con todo el amor de tu gran corazón. Este amor nos lleva a pasar horizontes, a ver estos horizontes y pasar estos límites. Y yo creo que como congregación hoy también dejar que Santa María Eufrasia nos invita a decir, dejo este instituto en tus manos, tú lo sostendrás. Yo creo que esto lo llevamos hoy juntas sobre nuestros hombros, sobre nuestra espalda, para decir, queremos servir, pero queremos dar un servicio y cambiar esta forma que vamos atendiendo, pero donde está implicada más la familia, más el entorno de la niña y del niño, que no solamente es algo interno para nosotras, sino es saber cruzar estas puertas, estas paredes para llegar a estos lugares donde están estas niñas y estos niños también y que necesitan este apoyo en su familia. Gracias.
Thank you so very much. Muchísimas gracias, hermana Veronica and Heidi. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And just speaking from your heart. It's so beautiful. Oh, I realized I did not start my video. I apologize. Back up. So now we're going to stay with the same religious congregation, the Sisters of Our Lady of Charity of the Good Shepherd. But we're going to go all the way over to Sri Lanka, and we will have the opportunity now to hear from Sister Shamandani Fernando, and she will share some exciting work happening in Sri Lanka. And I believe she will introduce a quick video that we'll start off with, and then she'll share a little bit more, expanding on what we see in this brief video. Following the sisters' presentation here, we will have a time for Q&A, and I invite you to use the Q&A function and to be writing questions that you have for presenters to respond to, so that we can make sure that we respond to those when we finish Sister's great presentation. So I'll turn it over to you, Sister.
We can start with the video.
முதலாவது பார்த்தீங்கன்னா பேரண்ட்ஸ் வந்து அம்மா அப்பா ரெண்டு பேருமே வந்து வேலைக்கு போனால் தான் அந்த குடும்பத்தை வந்து சரியாக கொண்டு போக முடியும். அதாவது ஒரு நாள் சாப்பாட்டுக்கு சரியா. இந்த வகையில் இருக்கும்போது அவங்களுடைய பிள்ளைகள் பார்த்திங்கன்னா ஒரு வீட்டில் ஒரு 4 பிள்ளைகள் இருப்பாங்க, அதே மாதிரி 5 பிள்ளைகளும் இருப்பாங்க, ஒரு பிள்ளையும் இருப்பாங்க. ஸோ அந்த பிள்ளைகளோட படிப்பு செலவு உட்பட ஏனைய செலவுகள் இது எல்லாத்தையுமே வந்து அவங்க கரெக்டாக கொண்டு போகணும் அப்படின்னா அவங்களுக்கு அது சரியான கஷ்டம். இப்படி வேலையெல்லாம் செஞ்சுட்டு வரும்போது பிள்ளைகள் வந்து தனியாக தான் வீட்டில் இருப்பாங்க.
Today we see a lot of children are abused, exploited, abandoned by the family, by the community, by the society. Automatically they come to centers. But what we find is right through, these children who are exploited by the society, abused, abandoned, neglected from the society, are not happy in our institutions. Because right through we have not touched the root causes. So the root cause is somewhere in the family or in the society.
So the village is facing the problem to build on their own system, so which need social work intervention. So the community needs support.
I feel as duty bearers, as Good Shepherd sisters, we need to do something. We need to change. We need to create new methods to safeguard the rights of children.
And the methodology we wanted to use is creating child-friendly, safe places in their own localities. According to the programs that we have in the community-based system, many more children get benefits for their education.
So we have begun only 5 places, 5 projects so far. There can be more. We want to spread this more and more and reduce the number of children in our institutions.
Every evening they have evening classes, and many more children are coming to this safety place where they experience freedom. They are getting many more happy experiences in the child safety place.
So this is the support we can give from outside. Once they come from school, we get teachers, social workers to give them extra classes. The school also gives them some homework. Earlier, I don't think there's somebody to support them. They can't send them to outside teachers. Parents are not able. Now the teachers who are going in the evening, they support them how to do their homework.
And then they are given, even we give them food, nourish them. We do nutrition programs because we see malnutrition there. Children are not fed properly.
They get opportunity to practice whatever the skills they have. They have a lot of potentials inside, but it doesn't come out because there's no stage for them to do it.
Wonderful. I'll turn it back over to Sister to do a brief presentation, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. And I'm noticing that we might be available to run a little bit over. So if you're able to stay with us beyond the half past the hour, that'd be great. But if not, we will share the recording later. So I'll turn it over to you, Sister.
Hi friends, I'm sure this short video clip gave you an idea about why and how Good Shepherd Sri Lanka is moving towards implementing community-based child protection programs in selected communities in Sri Lanka. I would also like to share a few strategies that have been adopted in enhancing the child rights to protection and education of children, and in creating in communities a safe space for them. The 3 strategies developed to attain the above mentioned purpose are the self-help approach, also called as SHA approach, the child representative approach, and child protection approach. Next, I will share a brief description about each strategy. Next slide, please. Why self-help approach? Self-help approach is designed intentionally to work with women because the woman has a bond with the child and is its main caregiver. Hence, behavioral and attitudinal changes of women will have a greater impact on children's lives. When she is empowered, her surrounding environment too is empowered, and that definitely the children. She is deeply passionate towards working on children's issues, and we believe the woman to be a change agent. Self-help approach makes every woman a child protector. Next slide. Self-help approach focuses on the total well-being of the family because family is the best place for the child, and strengthening family bond is important in creating a safe environment for children. This approach focuses on transmitting the best parenting skills and practices and strengthening of family life. It also gives increased emphasis on reaching financial stability for women and families to strengthen the quality of life. Improving capacities of women and empowering them to respond to children's issues and other community needs are geared towards creating safe spaces for children. Next slide. The second strategy is the child representative approach. The child representative approach is focused on identifying the children at risk in the community who can be pushed into institutions due to the vulnerable environment they live in. We give these children a special status in the project called Child Representatives. They have a special connection with the project and are involved in reporting process as well. The staff pay regular home visits and give attention towards their protection and educational needs. The staff conduct activities and one-on-one interactions with the children, which makes them a member of the safety network for the children. Next slide. In the child protection approach, the main actors are linked together and are updated on children's issues and create a platform to collaboratively respond to the situation. In this process, the government officials take greater responsibility and offer their services to the community. Especially, this strategy supports overseeing and closely monitoring the procedure of institutionalization of children and explore all alternative measures in the community before making the decision to place the child in an institution. Next slide. This slide gives some idea of the changes and achievements of the transitioning care of children, Good Shepherd Sri Lanka. In 2016, 800 children were supported in 17 childcare centers, and today 357 are in the institutions. Currently, 1,410 children are directly connected to the community-based programs and are protected and looked after while they are with their families. Next slide. It was not easy to transition from institutional care to community-based programs. It was difficult to convince the sisters on the effectiveness of community-based approach as there were less or no exposure on alternative care for children. Hence, there was so much of resistance from our own sisters towards the change. The Good Shepherd province experienced the fear of change and lack of trust in the change. Of course, lack of skills and capacity was one of the drawbacks in applying the best practices, and lack of skills personnel. We also experienced lack of cooperation from the government officers and resistance from the institutional church. Due to all these resistances, the process was slow in applying a right-based approach in transitioning care of children. Next slide. Thank you for your attention and your contribution towards developing alternative approaches to institutional care for children. Together, we can create a better world for our children. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sister. That was such a wonderful presentation. And really to all of our presenters today, I am in awe of all the great work that's happening of the Catholic Church around the world. And I know this is only just a small snippet of some of the other great work happening by the church towards family care and family strengthening. So we're going to take a moment. I know we have about 5 minutes left for our scheduled session. So we will definitely take some time for Q&A at this moment in time. But we also will stay on the line past the hour for anybody who would like to have a conversation. And as presenters are able to stay on, I invite you presenters to stay on and help answer some of these questions that are coming in that are great. And so also before, just in the interest, knowing that we're going to be wrapping up soon, before we go into the Q&A, I just want to invite people to make sure that you do register to be part of this platform. And there will be a link in the chat shortly that you are able to do that. And I'll bring that up again at the very end of the session. But since I know that we're running short on time, I wanted to invite everybody to consider being part of this great collaborative platform together. And so I will take probably time for one question before the session officially ends. But before I ask this question, I do want to lift up one of the great efforts of the GHR Foundation. As I was listening to these presentations, I was seeing the hand of GHR Foundation throughout a lot of these investments and these great efforts. So just want to specifically name you, as well as I know also USAID and MacArthur Foundation are also doing so much to advance family strengthening and family care around the world. So I would, one of the questions that's come in is, and I'm going to open this up for any of the presenters who would like to answer it, is just one piece of advice that you might have for an organization or a community that's starting a process for transformation from residential care to family care. Would love for anybody to jump in and share their thoughts on a piece of advice for somebody beginning an organization or community beginning transition. Any takers? Maybe Sister Shamandi, I don't know if you're able to offer any advice, or if any of the presenters are able to do so.
We know that it is very hard to have a shift from what we know, and changing attitudes towards this shift is so difficult. Maybe if the organization think of shifting, it's very important to start with changing the attitudes and having a understanding of the impact of the institutional care and the variety of gaining from the community-based or all the other alternatives care. So I feel this changing of attitude is very important, and we must start from there. Otherwise, throughout the way that we need to face so many problems or either challenges. So if we are very clear about what we are moving, I feel then that assurance will lead us for success and will take us to the destiny. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sister. I appreciate that response. Wonderful. Thank you. Any others like to offer a piece of advice?
I'm Father Albert. What my suggestion would be, we should help them to educate people about the goodness of family care by giving a positive approach about the family care will bring change. But it will not happen immediately. It takes time. We have to wait for the moment. Once the momentum is started, the change will automatically grow. That's what our experience. In the beginning, it was very difficult to convince even church leaders to take care of the families. But now slowly the change is taking place. It is only by giving all success stories to them and explaining the importance of family care that brings the change, but takes time. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Father Albert. That was great. And I invite all presenters, if you're able to turn on your camera as we close out officially, and then we'll invite anyone who wants to stay on. I would like to just thank, on behalf of all of us of this global collaborative platform, just would love to thank our presenters today for all that you're doing to lift up children around the world and be a part of this really exciting work of the church in living out our values towards families. It's really exciting. So thank you all for your wisdom, for sharing your testimonies, your experiences, and not only your work, but the work of all the other people that are not on this call today or that you're representing. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being such a light of the church and of Christ in the world. So thank you very much. I'd also like to thank all the people who have been involved with helping this webinar come together. It's been a wonderful process and a work of many hands, especially Catherine and Margot. I really appreciate everything that you've done to make this possible today. And also to thank our interpreters, Nora and Anna. And so, again, as I mentioned, please sign up for the Global Collaborative Platform if you haven't done so and are interested. And also, we will be sharing the recording in English and Spanish, as well as the slides following in the next few days following this webinar. And also, we will be sharing some other resources that we're not able to lift up today, but some videos and other resources that might be of interest to this community. So, so I'm going to officially end the session now with that. Thank you. And then we'll stay on for a few more minutes and answer questions. And also, we will try to follow up individually if there's questions that came into specific presenters that we don't have a chance to answer in the next few minutes. We will try to follow up individually using the contact information you provided during registration. So is there anything that I'm forgetting before we close out officially? I think we're good. All right, well, thank you all. And let's move to a few more questions if you're able to continue with us. So I apologize, I'm shifting my view here. So I think one thing that is really important is that this is such a community of practice that we have present today. How can people who perhaps are not working the day-to-day on family care, how can people on this call, how can Catholics, how can practitioners help support these great efforts that are happening around the world? And this is just a question for anybody who would feel called to share, like how can people get involved and how can they specifically support what you're doing? don't know if Sister Veronica and Mana Veronica, are you able to share any, how can people be supportive of transitioning of your work? What would be helpful for people to do to support your work?
Bueno, hay factores que necesitamos que conozcan, ¿no? Que vayan y que puedan conocer, pero también nosotras es nuestra responsabilidad también de darles a conocer y el impacto que está generándose de este cambio, el beneficio y las incidencias más notorias que se están presentando en los niños y en las niñas. Yo creo que los resultados que hoy estamos teniendo en la atención a estos menores, yo creo que es como para verlos y decir, creo que necesitamos seguir apoyando a estas instituciones, pues que realmente están haciendo una incidencia real, algo más palpable y que se puede notar, algo que se ve.
Thank you so much, Hermana. Wonderful. Father Albert, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. See, here the support means there can be two types of supports. One is financial support, another one is human support, human resources. In church, we have plenty of resources. And the resources are used for different purposes. When we convince the church leaders and different structures to concentrate on families, instead of concentrating on individuals or only the youth or only the children, concentrating on the family will bring change. So we can pull out all the resources available to focus on the family strengthening. The same way, we can bring all the structures that is working. All the structures can think in a one line with one focus that family is the center, because family is the basic community. That community is established in the church that brings the change in the society. Therefore, we should educate the leaders of the church to convert the resources to focus on the families. That will bring a change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Father Albert. That was wonderful. Are any other presenters like to answer that question?
Yes, I would say this webinar itself example for that, because this is a learning time and sharing our resources, our learnings we are sharing here. So I think this is a great example for us and answer to that question.
Great, thank you so much, sister. Appreciate it. Great. All right. I think I have one more kind of overarching question that I've seen run through the threads of several questions that have come in related to the work with governments. Since we are lifting up the work of the church today, I think people are curious how advocacy happens with governments, how government welfare, child welfare offices are engaged, what collaboration happens with the national and local governments. So I'm going to open it up because I think this is a question that most presenters could respond to. And so would anybody like to take that question of how do you work with government? And if so, how do you do that? And what's important to consider as you're working with governments? Anybody who would like to take that?
Okay, let me start.
Thank you, Father Albert.
Yeah. See, the role of the government is to take care of their citizens. It is their duty. We have to bring a policy change in the government. And that's what we are working on it. And we were able to succeed in such a level. So government have a lot of resources. Those resources are spent lavishly, unnecessarily. So what we do is the local panchayat, village panchayat, where the system we have is to plan for the village. And the village plans for the families, or for the school, or for the children. So it is called GPTP in India. That is Village Development Plan, in which we insist the government should focus on family care for children, by which a lot of resources are brought in, and those resources through panchayat, through village committee, is shared to the community. So that way we make the duty bearers responsible and accountable for all their activities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Father Albert. Anybody else?
With regard to Sri Lanka, our government is not that ready to accept these changes. Still, they are stick into the institutional care as the option. So it's so hard to work with them and to convince them. Of course, we can have, like, as a Catholic Church, we have many institutions. If we come together, we know that we have a way forward, and there's a possibility in bringing about the policy changes, and the advocacy level we can work. But I think we need to work much more to change these government structures. That's not easy.
Thank you so much, Sister. Wonderful. Are there any other presenters that want to share? Sister Veronica, Hermana Veronica.
Gracias. Para nosotros aquí en México, pues realmente con el gobierno es un tanto difícil esta realidad, ya que ha puesto tantos obstáculos para estas instituciones y estas asociaciones religiosas, que estamos tratando también de dar una respuesta diferente. Yo creo que es un trabajo muy arduo, que se necesita de tomar conciencia de parte del gobierno para estas poblaciones, para la protección de la niñez. Se priorizan tantas otras realidades, tantas situaciones que viven en el gobierno, pero la niñez, hoy vemos que con la pandemia ha habido un rezago escolar impresionante, y que esto nos está afectando en el futuro para nuestra niñez. Creo que sí necesitamos tener un apoyo de gobierno, en realidad, que no es tan fácil llegar a obtener estos beneficios para nosotras.
Thank you so much, Hermana Veronica. Wonderful. Well, I think we all are just starting to have all our questions coming to mind. I know I have so many now that I'm thinking of, and I think we could stay on for much longer. But I know that in the interest of time that we do need to wrap up. So again, I want to thank the presenters, and would like to thank the platform. But especially, I'd like to thank all the participants who are able to join us today. I think we had an incredible representation throughout the world, and regions of the world. And I am excited about what we're able to do together, and to learn from each other, and to help move forward to be able to have healthy and happy children of the future. So thank you all. And if we can show the final closing slide, I believe that we have an opportunity for, again, just a reminder to sign up for the platform. And I thank you all for being here. So take good care, and thank you so much.